Hello. It is Friday, February the 20th, in the year of our Lord 2026. It is time for come on, do I have to tell you guys? You know what time it is. It is small biz breakdown time. We do this every Friday, noon Eastern, and the other time zones that equate to noon Eastern. Have some really interesting conversations. Usually, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I think we might have some good stuff here. I don't know why. It's not like anything has happened in the last 7 days, but we'll traverse this hour and see if we can come up with something to talk about. And as usual, we like to start as far out west as we possibly can. And that means Leland from Oregon. Hey, Leland.
Hey, Brent, good to be here. It is finally snowed out west here. Got a little bit of it where I'm at, and mountains got a lot of it, and roads are shut down for days and all that stuff. But good snowpack, right? Not gonna have that bad of a drought.
I'm just glad that you actually probably have more snow now than we do, because up until last week, I don't think that was the case. But hey, you enjoy it. I'm enjoying the 76 degrees sunny weather that we have right now in Atlanta, GA.
Hey, after all that you went through, you deserve it.
I do. And let's see. Let's traverse. I don't know why I keep saying traverse. Let's just
Word
go.
of the day.
Let's just go to that magical place, Gary, Indiana, home of the Jackson Five, and home of, I'm just going to say Pierre, because he can go by one one name now. It's Pierre from Gary. Hey, man.
Hey, good. Hey, everybody. Good to see everyone here.
How are things in good old Gary, Indiana?
Oh gosh. Let's see. We're still moonwalking. Still looking for Billie Jean. But with the occasional Denise Williams, we're going to hear it for the boy as well.
I didn't know she was from Gary, Indiana.
She was from Gary, Indiana. Yep.
Right. Learn something new every day. All right.
It's a little cool here, but we're doing okay. So
I bet as we traverse a little further east, we go to that mystical, magical place. It's a place that we all should at least go to once, just to be a part of that mysticism, that magicalness, as we find out what's going on in Medina from Even a Taylor.
Hey everyone. Oh, it's a wonderful weekend in Medina. We are having our annual ice festival. Every small business has like a sponsored cool little ice, and tonight they're going to do ice carving on the square by the gazebo. There's going to be music, there's going to be dancing. Love is in the air. Woo.
Wow. That could have been a commercial for the whole city of Medina. I mean, that was great.
It's lovely. It makes my little like small business heart go pitter patter.
We like when your small business heart goes pitter patter too. So. And you look great.
I like that. I'll take it. I will take it. Say thank you.
Yes. All right. Now, usually this time we go to, I think he calls it the vacation capital of the world or something like that. I just call it New Jersey. Hope that's a bad thing or not. Ramon Ray, but he is, I think he's traveling. He's traveling. And then before we usually go there, we kind of make a pit stop in our nation's capital to see what's going on. Usually we see what's going on with a smile on the person's face. That would be the one and only Shashi, Mr. Smile Belanconda. But he's traveling as well. Actually, he's coming back from, I believe, the Zoho Day event for the Enterprise Analyst Group, which I would have been at, but I got a little sidetracked, so I'm staying here. But anyway, got a lot of news within the last really couple of hours when you think about it. I'm going to pop this up before I ask you guys how you're feeling, because I don't know, maybe this will play a role in it. I don't know. But I went to good old CNBC and just to see what was on their homepage this morning. And the GDP number was really not as good as they were hoping it would be. It was trying to get to, I think, 2 point something, and it only made it to 1.4, which is a pretty bad miss. And yeah, inflation is still tracking at 3%. So when your GDP is going at 1.4 and your inflation is at 3, not a good thing. And then we got some other news this morning, which caused, I think, this to happen. That face. What would cause that face to happen, you might ask? Well, this is taken from the Wall Street Journal, so this is definitely not a bastion of liberalness. It's because just about an hour and a half ago, the tariffs that our current president had put in place and then backed out of, and then put in place again and backed out. Anyway, Supreme Court basically struck it all down. Well, that's a pretty, and that apparently this is what they're saying. The moment Trump found out, the Supreme Court killed his tariff. That's yeah. But you know what? That's not the worst face that we saw this week. This is the worst face we saw this week. I just had to put that out there. We don't need to go into any details about this. It's just a bad look. Anyway.
Crazy birthday present for himself.
Very crazy. All right. So as I usually do at this time, after seeing some of that, I don't know if that has any impact on what you're going to say, but how are y'all feeling this week? Let's go with Ivana.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, like I said, it's Ice Festival weekend, and I'm expecting our small business owners to do really well. We are having a warm front going through Medina. Not too good for ice, but you know, the carving kind. Although they were threatening to send the people kind as well, but so far we are doing okay. How am I feeling? I'm on a new soapbox about being more focused on human beings rather than AI, and that's about it. Should I pass it on, or are you going to call on somebody?
You call on somebody.
I'm gonna go to Leland.
So, I mean, looking at that news, I mean, in some cases, there are going to be some small businesses that are going to be, very happy to see that the tariffs are struck down and they're going to be able to get goods cheaper. There may be some small businesses that are like, oh man, people are coming to me for manufacturing, and so now it's going to hurt my business. So there may be some give and there's some take. I look at the situation and I go, okay, he tried something. Yeah, it got struck down, but he did try something, and we're not in a bad position overall when it comes to our nation. I mean, yes, it's at 3%. It's not at 7%. Inflation's at 3%. It's not at 7%. GDP is at 1.4%. It's not negative or shrinking or anything like that to indicate recession. So while yes, not the best news for economics, not the worst. I mean, it's not like we're again in any kind of recession or anything like that. So if you're a small business owner, I mean, you can take a look at this information and go, huh, that's neat, and then move on to whatever you need to do for the day. But don't dwell on it. Don't think, oh man, this is going to be the end of the world, or oh, this is going to be the thing that saves my business or something like that. Me personally, thing I caught from New York, I came back with a nice head cold, and so that's what I've been dealing with, along with a whole bunch of video editing, and so I've been getting some interviews up. It's been a fun week.
Okay, Pierre.
I'm not going to mince words. First of all, I like the fact that it got struck down. I'm not a big fan of tariffs, only because I think from a strategy standpoint, it was the way that everything got implemented. It uprooted so many people in manufacturing in terms of where do you want to assemble something, where do you want to build, and that had happened in a number of industries. You look at Stellantis, for example. I didn't realize this the other day. Chrysler, in a segment with CNBC, they were talking about Chrysler and how that division's kind of gone. The only thing they have left now is minivans. The two minivans that they have are built in Canada, which means they were completely impacted by that. Another automotive brand, Audi, which has never had any manufacturing in the United States, was impacted by it. Look, I think the problem with the tariffs is that I think Trump really oversold the idea that if we have these tariffs, that all this, manufacturing is going to come back to the United States, and it's just this very one-dimensional, myopic view of trying to solve an economic problem. And I kind of am very happy that the Supreme Court struck this down, which I don't think I think Trump will probably be just upset about it, kind of do whatever Trump wants to do. But I think at some level it gives relief for business owners who have some exposure to the tariffs, at least in trying to make better plans rather than being rushed into it because of some whim that the president wanted to have this policy for. And that's just my 2 cents on it.
I want to ask a question, Pierre. Maybe you know this. Maybe one of you guys knows this. But when this case had gone into the courts, one of the conversations was an administrative conversation about if this were to be struck down. So this is months and months ago. If this were to be struck down, they would have to pay the money back.
Oh, I did not. Okay, I have not heard
this
that.
Was like a whole conversation. So right before we got online, I got an email from the, Chamber of Commerce, Small Business and Entrepreneurship thing. You guys might have gotten that too. And they talked about how it was, I believe, $70 billion that small businesses had paid in tariffs. And for whatever reason, they decided to pull out the 730 some million of it came from Massachusetts. Maybe because the guy that does it is Markey. He's the guy that leads that committee. But I have heard this be in a conversation, and I'm like, I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I just don't think that they're like, how do you track that? But the courts, what these lawyers were saying is that the courts have typically, if this were a case like that, you would have to pay back.
Yeah, I haven't heard about the payback, but I can imagine that being part of the broader conversation of who's actually paying. I think there's been a lot of confusion on, ultimately who is paying what. And I think that part will probably be a part that's probably the part that's going to start unraveling. We'll see unraveling as the time goes on, because I think it's a matter of who's really paying for something. Is it the customers? Is it really going? I think Trump believes that it's not the U.S. He feels like it's somebody else, but that part is going to get unraveled quite a bit. So I'm not surprised. I'm not familiar with that conversation, but I'm not surprised by it at a certain level.
Well, we do have because earlier this week, let's see if I can share this. Maybe I'll just have to take myself out of the picture and put this in. Earlier this week, there was already I think it was from the New York Fed. They did a study on the impact of what these tariffs have been on the overall economy. And what they found, because remember the idea was tariffs would create these 90 deals in 90 days from all these countries. And if we lifted their tariffs to these rates, they'll come to the deal table and we'll start to bring in all sorts of new revenue. That's what we were told would happen. And that would, of course, make the trade deficit shrink, because the trade deficit is so bad. And it is. I mean, we're really definitely taking in less than we are, spending in other countries or whatever. That's how it goes. And New York Fed put out a report and said, basically, trade deficit hasn't changed much in any with all this tariff talk. It hasn't increased the amount of money coming in to even an extent. So we're basically in the same boat as we were in terms of the trade deficit before whatever it was, about a year ago. April, I think, is when he announced the big tariff thing. So we haven't even gotten to a year, but it hasn't changed anything. And then on top of that, the report also said, and I don't think I have that with me right now, but the report basically said at 90% of the tariffs are being paid by folks right here in the U.S. So, he gave the tariffs a shot. It didn't do anything positively for the most part, and now Supreme Court is saying it's illegal. I mean, he's overstepped his bounds.
I just don't
So
understand.
where does that?
We did this decades ago, and it didn't go well. This was This is like math.
Yeah, this is economics 101, isn't it, Pierre? Like, if you raise tariffs, that's like a tax. That means people, the consumers, are basically the ones that are going to end up paying it in the end. And that's not necessarily what we were expecting or what we were told was going to happen.
Yeah, I think the other part to it too is that strategically for companies, it makes it harder for them to offer certain products. If you have products that are being taxed by a tariff, that can ruin a lot of strategies. That's why when I mentioned about Audi, in particular, Audi's a premium brand. Don't get me wrong, but there's some of their models that they were selling, slightly below the average. They couldn't do it anymore, and there's other automakers in that boat because either they were coming from either Canada or other places where they get hit with a tariff. So basically, if you're a car manufacturer, you now are that little window of trying to offer something for a particular customer segment is now much harder to do because you now have a tax that's raising the price and pretty much dissuading customers from your product. So I think there's a lot. I think that with the tariffs, it just were not really thought out well, and I have to wonder if this decision is also one of those where it's sort of an underlying message to Trump that don't to rethink if he's going to do anything for the economy. It needs to be something where he's working out with Congress at some level, with some sort of bill or something else that may be a little bit more. It's a little bit more collaborative and not just something like an executive order or anything else like that he could lean on. And I think there may be a little message. I think that message in all of this is sort of it's not the main message, but I think there's a subtext there that I think they're trying to send as well.
Basically, he's not a king, and he can't just say things that. And I'm talking about this from. I don't care what the president is, whoever the president is, you can't decree stuff on your own, particularly when tariffs and all that stuff is really supposed to be handled by Congress. They're the ones that are supposed to do all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I think the happiest group of people might be farmers, because they're the ones that seem to have gotten really screwed, if I can say that, with this, because they I think it was the rice farmers in Oklahoma that were really just their whole business kind of went out. People stopped buying the rice.
Soybean, wasn't it soybeans?
Might be soybeans too, but I think it was rice too. And so
we had rice here. Do we do rice here?
There was, yeah. I was surprised.
Didn't know that.
It's like one kind of rice, but they were saying basically they weren't able to sell anything, and they were like, we don't want to take money from the government when we know that if we can compete on an even playing field, we'll do all right. And the taxes made it harder for them to compete. So do you think net, and maybe even individually, does any of this stuff change how you go about running your business, like investing in stuff or putting off things or doing more because now certain things are gone for the moment, because we all know he'll probably appeal this, and you can't really appeal the Supreme Court, so you can't do that. Maybe he'll try another way to do that. I don't know. But how does this impact your thinking for your business right now, if at all? I don't know.
For me, I mean, I don't think that tariffs really kind of hit me in any way, shape, or form. I mean, maybe a little technology, but I mean, AI is kind of killing tech when it comes to pricing for AI. I mean, tariffs, little AI balloons prices when it comes to RAM and graphics card storage, all those kinds of things. So for me, I don't think it's going to impact me. But for the average small business owner, I think it will. I think that it will. You know, it's kind of as if like a sales tax was just repealed. I personally am more of a fan of a sales tax rather than an income tax. And ultimately, if in the end, this would have shifted maybe less of an income tax for federal because we were making more money off of tariffs or something like that, I would have actually kind of enjoyed that a little bit better. I live in Oregon. We have an incredibly wicked high income tax. It is nasty. We do not have sales tax. They've been trying to dual tax us, and no one wants that. But I would rather be taxed only on what the goods and I'm selling, rather than solely based off of my income. So it would have
Wow,
been a good thing.
really? How
Yeah.
does that work out better for you? Because think about that. If you are not taxed, it's like more of your income will go towards purchasing goods. And like people at higher income levels will pay, it'll be a progressive tax. You'll literally pay more out of your pocket percentage wise, proportionately, than if they took an income tax. So how is that good for, I don't understand. Explain that. Maybe I'm just not getting it. Like how does that
So
work for you?
all of my income is taxed. It's one, all of it is taxed, rather than with a sales tax, groceries aren't taxed. So the money that would go to groceries ain't taxed. The money that goes to certain things, like I don't think that houses, if you were to buy a house, you're not taxed on that. You're taxed on a car purchase, but there are certain things that where your income goes to isn't taxed.
See, like here in
Health,
Ohio, we get sales tax on like in Pennsylvania, just 2 hours away. Food is free, clothing. I mean, tax free. Food,
yeah.
clothing, and something like essentials. I guess is the word. I don't know what else. But here in Ohio, we have a sales tax, we have a property tax, we have an income tax. I am taxed out the wazoo. So for me, the idea of uh, like I said, it like the math doesn't work for me. Like right compared to some other people, right? Like middle people will end up right. The more you consume, the more you pay. But that's all. That's all the tax you'll pay, which means that I mean, there'll be no tax on all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And the best thing about like an income tax is that for people who are rich, there's ways around it. There's ways to say, lower your income, do these things, get around them. It is impossible to get around a sales tax. It's just there. You have to pay it. You can't do deductions or anything like that. It's the rich have to pay it. The poor have to pay it as well. It's kind of an equalizer, where income tax, usually it's the middle class that gets hit hit really hard with that in businesses.
Yeah, I think for me, directly impact, not really, because most times I'm just dealing mostly with customers within the states and online. So the simple answer, like, no, I should be okay. I think personally, I'll say this: for certain goods, you do rethink the things a little bit. I remember, for example, if for simple stuff, like for example, I was looking at getting another plate set. I have a plate set that's kind of, not old, but I kind of feel like, okay, I don't want to wash this dish for the 200th time. When I looked at dishes, I saw that when there was a tariff on Chinese goods and so forth, some of the dish sets went up considerably. So, from my mind, I'm thinking, oh, well, I can just pick up a dish set, for this much. That would be really neat and durable and last me a long time. If things I thought were like maybe $60, $70, they were all of a sudden 150 and up. So I think things that we've been eyeing for a while that we know has been impacted by the tariff, we're going to probably notice the prices changing. At least I say this with fingers crossed, because given hopefully the manufacturers will be honest with themselves and say, hey, no tariff, therefore we lower. If they're smart, they'll do that. Then again, some people may not.
I've been waiting to see if these tariffs are going to go away, because there's some stuff I would want to buy, but I didn't want to buy at those inflated prices. So I'm hoping, like Pierre.
Why would they, guys?
Uh-oh.
Why would they drop the price if they leave the price the same? I've been sitting around these tables. They left the price the same after COVID when
Well,
they could have dropped them.
I
They
hear you.
never
I
dropped
have
them.
I have my fingers crossed. I
Yeah,
with the air
yeah.
quote. But
Well,
I would bet
can I
money that they will not.
can I retort that just a little?
Please, I would love you to, because I would love to be wrong. So would love to be wrong.
Well, during COVID, there was certain reasons other than just gouging. There was some gouging, but there was some supply chain issues
Oh,
that
absolutely.
really forced pricing up because of
And did they come
scarcity.
down? Did the pricing come other than gas?
I can say for automobiles, there was a few when they had the chip shortage going on. BMW cut the price on a number of their cars because you could not have a powered driver's seat. I don't know the whole story, but my understanding was because of some of the chip shortage, you could not have a power seat that was supposed to be either standard in some of their models. So what they did was they cut down the price. I think it was like $300 at least, something, not too big, but something a little nice, basically. That's the one thing that comes off my mind. I'm not sure about other products though.
I think it only takes one of them to break. And if they've already got, if they have a pretty good profit margin, but they want to sell more than their competitors, it could happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could happen. I can see it happening.
I'm just like the stuff I see, like in grocery stores, right? They've gotten I've seen more and more of this. I have not done it myself, but they are begging you to go to the grocery store and weigh your meats, your produce, and whatever, because they are messing around with the pricing there.
Oh, okay.
When you're in certain stores, like the one I know is like Kohl's, for example, and I don't even shop at Kohl's, but I know they have digital price tags. When you see digital price tags in stores now, they are talking about surge pricing. You walk in, you've got your phone, maybe you're wearing a watch, you've got some type of something on you, or it's a certain time of day or whatever, and they are adjusting those prices. I wish I were optimistic enough to believe that, but no, because marketing pricing rule 101 says it's whatever the market will bear. So let's follow that logic. If the market is bearing whatever, $7 for a half gallon of milk, they might mess around with it, right? Instead of $6.98 or $6.99, it might be $6.50. They're going to mess around, but I just do not see prices going down. They will not come down.
Yeah, I think but I think you said the key piece of it, what the market will bear. If it was clear that you took a hit for a certain product during this whole time with tariffs, you're going to be there's going to be a part of you that says, maybe I really do need to drop some prices on here to get some sales volume and keep some things rolling. But
if you have overcapacity, you want to get rid of this stuff, you drop the price. If that's going on, and then once it only takes one to do that, and then they're all doing that because they want the sale.
Food is a perfect example of that. You don't want that on the shelves too long. Nobody's going to wait around for meat, keeping it on the shelf if the price is there. They got to cut and get it out there.
I love that month-old steak, man. That's some
2 months. 2
Dry,
months.
it's called dry aged, and it does go up in price when you dry age.
2 months with the A1, man,
right through your stomach,
tossing the top. There you go.
I do think that what
we got to put rice in there too.
What even is said is true. It's like if a company can sell it for their widget for $10, when it was $5 and people were paying $10, why would they ever go down? Even if their costs have gone down, they're going to continue to gouge out as much profit as possible until a competitor comes along and says, well, I have a widget of my own and I'm selling it for $6. Then all of a sudden you're going to see that price take down.
Especially if you're a publicly traded company and you need to hit certain numbers before the end of the quarter. Guess what happens? They all do that. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I think if there's too many widgets in somebody's warehouse, they're gonna drop the price because they got to get rid of them widgets. And it is what it is.
Don't see it happening overall because, right, it would be a bad thing because deflation is bad.
But we're not right now in that much worry about deflationary
No, we're not.
stuff.
And that's but they will never ever, they'll look at inflation being 0, 1% or whatever. Like, remember, was it after 2008 or something that's where like interest rates were ridiculous and, like
So the subprime mortgage really did us all
really
in.
hit a reset on those kinds of things. But now that like even to me, I'm old. I'm like inflation at 3%. Like I remember inflation being 13%. So it's like
Yeah, I remember.
I was in college. It was like expensive. So
yeah, I remember that.
But the dollar had more value, and that's something we have not been talking about. I have a lot of concerns about that. I think the dollar value is going to be decreasing and decreasing. And so what that means is your money, not only are prices going to be the same or going up, but the money that you have will be worth less and less and less.
Well, I think, and I could be wrong, of course, but I think if this Supreme Court ruling holds up and he waves the white flag, which he never does, but I'm just saying, and he steps away from the tariffs, that steps away from a lot of the financial and economic chaos. And when there's less chaos and more stability, the dollar will go up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it will, but
I hope it. I hope it will. I just worry that and I think Leland had said something about this in the past, and that is what's happened is that Europe, especially, and these other countries that were so depending on the U.S. have now really stepped up. They've been made additional investments in their own military and whatever is going on, and that in a lot of ways is a good thing, in my opinion. Like everyone should again share more of the responsibility.
Yeah,
that's fine. Unfortunately, the tariffs and all the things that we have been doing has been creating this environment of we can't trust the U.S. to be stable anymore. That's the part that's what we've hurt our brand.
Of course,
like our reputation is not being reliable, and while that could be,
I think there's been some permanent damage done. I mean,
and I think these countries are making alternate plans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Canada for sure. The UK for sure, because of all the Greenland talk and the 52nd or 51st state talk.
And that it's so antithetical to what we encourage these businesses to do, which is how work went to China in the first place. Remember, we weren't happy about work going to China. We were not happy about that. But that is something that was good for big business.
Yeah, there's been some permanent damage done, but from the financial aspects, if certain things are walked back because they should have never been walked forward, it becomes less chaotic. It becomes more what we're used to, and I don't know if we'll ever have the same kind of relationships with our longtime partners after all this. But
if you had a client that behaved this way,
I'd fire
in a contract.
I fire them.
You have a client or a vendor that behaved this way in a contract. None of us can deal. And that consistently comes back in our NFIB surveys, the Chamber of Commerce surveys. I don't know, all the surveys. What is the number one fear they have is uncertainty and inflation.
I think I think these countries taking more of a financial interest in their military, I think it's a positive for them and us. But it was the way that it was approached and done, which was going to cause the damage, long term damage. I don't know exactly how much. I don't know how you measure that, but if have you ever had a friend that, but let's say they were really great at something extremely important, and they treated you well. They treated you like you were equal, even though they know they're better than you. We can all live with that. But it's when your friend starts to rain it down on you and constantly telling you how inferior you are. And do you want to be a friend with that person for very long? No. And that's kind of where we are in this. I think it was good. Maybe the friend needed to be told, hey, you can do better. You can do better. I know you're not as, I might have some certain advantage, but you can do better. That's the way you should do it. Not you're going to do what we want to do because we are better. That does not work in the long run for stability. And that's what we've basically seen.
I think he kind of tried that a little bit with the first, you can all kind of agree that Trump's gotten a little bit more crazier in his second season, in his second term than he did with his first.
Correct.
And I mean, he did try to get the people in NATO to actually pay what they were supposed to pay, which is 2% of their GDP. And America was, oh man, it was like 5 or something like that. We were paying an outrageous amount of money. 75% of all funding for NATO came from America. And Trump is like, come on, guys, get it up there a little bit. And then as soon as he was gone, they went right back to paying very little. And so he's like, okay, look, I tried it nice. You guys are idiots. And then that's probably where you're starting to see the kind of more condescending, because he told them nice. They started doing things, and then as soon as he was gone, it was like the cat's away, the mice will play. And so I kind of see it like that. It's a little bit, but I do like seeing that some of these countries are not necessarily relying as much on NATO, because it is, while it is something based solely on America, and so like 75% on America. And so like if something were to happen to America, catastrophically, the economy or something like that, NATO's kind of SOL. So it's kind of good that they're shoring up their own militaries to be able to protect themselves just in case.
I think the net is, you're right, but I think it could have been, I know he might have tried, I think he could have done it differently, but that's just me. We can agree to disagree on that. Yeah. But look who's commenting here. Who is this John Lawson III here?
The bold one.
The bold one.
The old one.
Oh wow! I didn't even have to say anything.
I had to finish it. It was there.
I liked it.
Started it. I ended it.
I liked it. Yeah. Anyway, he says, as a product vendor, I am going crazy with my thought. With the thought? Okay, that's what he meant to say. With the thought that competitive pricing is the only driver of vendor product prices. It's not that simple. I agree with
you. We agree.
Oh boy, I think we could talk about something a little less controversial. How about some AI?
Yeah, well, we have to have AI in there. I mentioned A1 steak sauce earlier, so we gotta get to the AI. Yeah,
I'm gonna be. I will be the controversial voice on this one. Okay. So I'm just gonna let you lead the conversation. I'm just gonna be the grizzled old lady.
You could never be the grizzled old lady. I'm just saying. All right. So this week, something really dramatic happened when it comes to AI and content creation. I'm going to play a clip from a conversation I had with a gentleman by the name of Frank Radis. Frank is a friend of mine, but beyond that, Frank is one of the pioneers in cable news. He's executive producer at CNN in the early days. Before that, he was a executive producer. He actually worked with Howard K. Smith. How do you remember Howard K. Smith? Oh, yes. So he worked with Howard K. Smith. he has worked with all the NBC nightly news anchors from Tom Brokaw to Brian Williams and Lester Holt. He was one of the first folks to help get MSNBC off the bat. Frank Radis, and even though he's a pioneer and all that, he is very current on what's going on with news and entertainment and media. And so I had a conversation with him, and he explains in this. I'm not going to play the whole clip, just some of it. He explains what happened this week that basically shook the whole of Hollywood. After I get rid of this phone call, somebody calling me at this point. All right, here's this.
Biggest story of the week.
Let's get rid of him smiling. Let's go back and try this again.
Biggest story of the week is the AI created fight between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It is equally as good as something that was shot on IMAX with multiple angles, beautiful sound effects, terrific music. It's a 15-second clip, and I'm telling you, if you're in the film business, you're going to look at that, and that's going to shake you up. That's the single most important thing that's happened in recent memory. It's because of AI. I'm not against AI. I think AI is an absolutely magnificent tool used the right way, and it's regulated so that people who are in the industry aren't going to lose too much. They're certainly going to lose money because of it, but aren't going to lose too much. There's an economy attached to making film and television that's way more than just the guy who writes it or the woman who directs it or the camera crews, the infrastructure around it, from the people who drive the trucks to the people who move the props to the people who build the scenery to the people who cater to the people who fly the stars in and out. Just this gigantic system that wraps around making movies and television. Those are all affected by AI. I actually took some lengthy notes on a feature that I was working on with someone, and I threw it into AI, and it came out with a screenplay. It wasn't great. It wrote the screenplay way better than I could have, and all I had to do was go back and edit it. I wanted to make graphic designs of what the poster art would look like. You describe that into the AI, and boom, it came up. The longest you could do before the new ByteDance apps started to happen was like 3 to 5 seconds. This piece on ByteDance with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt is 15 seconds long. Think about it. Unless you're talking about really long shots, that's about how long a shot is in a movie or a television show before it cuts to another shot. It's a 15-second sequence that was described in words and then came out in a piece of video. Hollywood is turning itself inside out right now because of that.
Have you guys checked that video out, by the way?
I've seen it before.
I've seen that one and a different one.
Do you agree that now that they're getting longer and they're getting, I mean, that I remember when the Will Smith eating spaghetti thing came out. We come a long ways from that. I mean, that video looked like something that was shot on a Hollywood scene.
I mean, there's still some elements of Uncanny Valley. There's just, you could look at it and you could go, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's AI. And for the most part, like anytime an AI video comes up, I go, oh yeah, the cat's missing. It was there and now it's gone. It's not perfect, but it's getting really good. And it is one of those things that if Hollywood insists on staying away from AI, from pushing it away and not embracing it in some way, shape, or form, in a decade, Hollywood may not be around, because in a decade, I fully think that there's going to be the capability of, I want to see this kind of show, and then it just starts making the show for you quick. And I mean, there's already those kinds of capabilities. I think there was a company out there that used South Park as a model and was able to create South Park episodes fully scripted out. You could go into scenes, be able to change them, and you got yourself a full episode of South Park. It's not necessarily like they didn't want to, just like, oh, we're going to replicate South Park. It was just more of a test case, and then they can apply it to it. Disney Plus, or Disney with Disney Plus, is looking at finding a way to make customizable shows. It's on the horizon. It's coming down the pike. And if Hollywood doesn't accept it and embrace it in some way, shape, or form, they're going to go bankrupt. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that come to mind for me. The infrastructure part, just to bring up what Lena mentioned, that part really is concerning. Much of the sometimes the fun of the movies is where they're located, but can you imagine AI being so good enough that you don't have to care about the location anymore? Like if you like Transformers, the Dark Side of the Moon, they shot that in Chicago, but there was also a scene or two they did in Detroit just for cost effects. Same thing for I remember from Marvel. I think it was Captain America: The Winter Soldier. They were supposed to be in DC, but the real location was Cleveland, and you can kind of even see by the traffic lights and oh, okay, that's Cleveland, that type of thing. Those sort of minute details will probably get erased out with AI. And that's minor compared to the people that are working on the sets and everything else. You know, it'll streamline that at some level. I think the actors are also a little bit concerned because of the idea that someone can really just, as long as someone has your voice and maybe an image that they can work with, they can turn that into a full-blown animated image if possible. If I remember correctly, I think it was Morgan Freeman who I think trademarked his voice because of those type of concerns. And I think we're going to see a little more of that as people go on. I think the only person who's really made a big pushback and probably have made some headway, if I remember correctly, was I can't think of her, Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. I think she had pushed back on something that had like her image without her permission, basically. But we're going to see a lot of that debate about IP right now because of the length and the amount of imagery that you can work with. You know, what is the right amount that doesn't breach somebody's permission to use their image? It's getting harder to do when AI is so capable.
This was something that happened Back to the Future. So you have Back to the Future 1, and you had the actor who played the dad in the past. And in Back to the Future 2, they didn't get the same actor back, but they had a face mask that they had made from the first movie. So they used his likeness as a mask on the actor who played the dad in the second movie, and they got sued. And they lost because they used his image in a movie when they weren't supposed to do that. And I could see probably similar things happening, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be easy to go against big companies. So big companies aren't going to be able to do that. But the small guy in his garage, or in his spare bedroom, who's, doing these for shorts, they're not. It's going to be whack-a-mole trying to get those kinds of people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I'm going to be contrarian. Should I be contrarian now?
Be
as contrarian as you like.
Yes to all the things, but one of the things we know is that when it's almost like the friction in the process, accessibility to the process, what came up for me was cameras and pictures. Those of us who are old enough to remember that, thank God, we did not take pictures of every little thing.
Thank goodness you're right.
Because every single image was worth something. And there were professional photographers who took special pictures and so on and so forth. And then came the digital camera. And that's where we started seeing a lot, all of us starting to take pictures of everything all the time. But we are not all professional photographers. And what's a professional now? To have a professional photographer, that's really worth something. Anyone can take a picture, but do you have the eye? Do you know how to compose something? Do you know? And this is my peeve. Everyone, AI can do this and AI can do that. Yeah, but do you know how to describe that thing? Which what's his name? Frank Radis?
Yeah.
Is a media professional.
Yeah.
He knows how to describe the things that he wants. We do not, which is why my images look like crap, because I'm terrible at describing images. I'm just not very descriptive, right? So I think that we're forgetting that we have lived through this before. Like, my friend from Question Pro, he was an online survey, and all the consulting firms and experts that were doing surveys. They're like, yeah, because anyone can do a survey. What do you get? You get garbage information. You know, you can press buttons and you can create things, but like what Leland was talking about, the fact that you have to offload storytelling to me, I am a crappy storyteller. Don't make me do that job. This is why I'm paying big money to artists and people. And so I feel like all things American, since I am an immigrant here, all things American happen in extremes. Like more of this is better. I don't know when we as a population are going to learn that everything in moderation is better. Everything in moderation. AI is not, it's not like I heard one article about here are the 5 terrible things that can happen. Here are the 5 wonderful things. I'm like, all 10 things were goofy. Like some element of all of those things is going to happen. So, okay, I'll be quiet now.
It raises a good point. And I think it raises a good point, I think, for us, for small business owners about technology. You raise the point of, how much knowledge do we need to have to operate something? You're talking about in terms of movies. For small business owners, it's just in terms of software. We all are exposed to software. If you have a website, you're exposed to software. But not everyone's going to be a website designer. Not everyone's going to be a developer. So there's going to be some people who will say, hey, let me go to Wix, flip the switch and turn this on. Other people are like, hey, I have this idea for a website, but I need someone who can build and put the pieces together so that way it operates and I can focus on the content a little bit. It's the thing that we need to be learning about AI the most is that it's a layer. It really is sort of I think of it as a data layer, but it's really just more of this, interface layer. And what we need to be thinking about is how much abstraction do we need from the tools beneath that layer. That's going to determine whether or not we go to, let's say, create a presentation within Gemini, for example, versus just saying, hey, I just need to go to a simpler software, Apple Keynote, PowerPoint, and just put a few slides together. It's about how we deal with images, how we deal with editing images, editing video. Maybe we just need something for a few seconds with CapCut versus somebody who needs Camtasia and really take time with the images and do some creation. I think that's probably the lesson that we're going to be learning from these sort of instances.
Yes, and the lesson really, what's uncovering is how absolutely terrible critical thinkers we are. And remember, Brent, when this was a few years ago when we did the small business survey, remember Leland through Small Biz Trends, we did that small business survey and it was right around COVID time or whatever. And I came back and I said, and remember how those back office things like ranked kind of low. And I said, or something like that. I can't remember. And I was like, what small business owners tend to do is delude themselves by keeping themselves busy doing something so that they don't have to do the hard thing. Mm. And if you're going to be really good with AI, guess what? You got to do those things that are not fun to do. Like you got to know who your customer is and what's important to them, because guess what the AI needs? It needs you to tell them what your customer persona is. It does not know. You can give it things, but like if you don't have expertise in what you're doing, and if you can't execute on the workflow, and if you can't engineer what that workflow is supposed to look like, it is not gonna. Then I would actually have Brad Pitt with his nose like over here.
Okay.
That's official.
My hope is that it will become a bit more accessible so that some of these heavier tasks become a lot more lighter and you're able to be guided through what is needed. So like with your example about getting customer information, you have the AI going, okay, I need you to go talk to your customers. I need you to ask these questions. I need these questions. Give them to me, and then I can give you a really good plan. That would be my hope. And I do see that with like technology. And you talked about like photography and stuff like that. Everyone and their mother now is a photographer. You know, a professional photographer. He's like, oh yeah, schedule me and I'll give you your autumn shooting. They do a decent job, and it kind of goes into the technology, because now they just go into burst mode and they start clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. They don't have to look for the right angle, the right shot, because they could take million pictures, throw it up into Adobe Lightroom, and click a button that says find me the best pictures. And Adobe Lightroom has all of the technology to go, hey, these 20 pictures out of the million that you gave me are the best. So let me touch them up a little bit, and then it spits out 20 images. And so now someone that back in like the 70s, it would have been a professional. It's like you took a lot of time, you studied a whole lot, has been boiled down to this is my third job, and I'm kind of good with it. I got myself a camera and I just do burst mode, and I'll give you some pictures, and it's $50.
Yeah,
So,
and on top of that, the images they spit out, they're able to be used without any kind of legal things going, because that's the other part of all this stuff is who's going to sue me if I use some of this stuff. I mean, you're even seeing things going on outside of the content creation. All the hullabaloo, and I can't believe I just said hullabaloo, but I just said it again, so I'll keep going with hullabaloo. Going on over this whole open claw Claude code thing, where a lot of people have been, Claude code is everybody's really talking about it, but there is a bit of a bottleneck or a holding point, because you either spend $20 a month and you're capped in things, and even if you spend $200 a month, you're kind of capped based on, well, you're supposed to be able to do a lot, but not do crazy amounts. And this open Claude thing is allowing people to use, it was allowing people to use their $200 Claude Max account to run like agents 24/7 because it was getting in through the API level and just running stuff without having to, bypassing the $200 your Claude Max. And they started dinging people because they weren't supposed to do the OAuth thing, which is basically sidestep your typical login and just let the agent log in under the covers and just go to town using it, because everything is running locally on these machines these people are building up. And then I guess Anthropic got a wind of it, and they were like, that's, we hadn't thought about people going to this level to be, because there's one guy on here, I forget his name. He is built out, like he bought $30,000 of Mac Studios to run the Claude Code open claw stuff. So he had basically its own an agent, a Mac Studio, and he was running these things 24/7 and paying the $200 a month. And they were like, hell no, we can't let this keep going.
Yeah.
So people are finding out all these ways to get around, because people see the possibility, the potential of what you can do if you're able to figure it out and let it run on its own without you having to do anything.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more workarounds. You can use small models now. I was reading somewhere where somebody was saying that people are actually buying Mac Minis, so that way they can put the models on those minis and just run the way that they want. So and the small models are being much more capable. So we're going to see a lot more of that workaround type of duct tape type of thinking.
You're also gonna you're gonna also see like more restrictions. I remember seeing a story about OpenAI wanting to get a chunk of what people are doing. So, and it's not going to be like me, the type of user. It's like the kind of people that are using OpenAI to discover new elements and use it to make new medication and stuff like that. They're going to actually individually approach these kind of people and be like, okay, we want to help you succeed, we want a cut of the pie. And so it's you're going to probably see more of that, more restrictions, but also along with that, hey, I want a part of this, as a means to, because it's either that or they're going to go bankrupt in a couple of years, because they're not making that much money to justify the billions of dollars they're getting.
They come well, and this is such a new frontier, a new thing that even these guys can't see every possibility or every use case or know exactly. I mean, there's so many smart people in the world that are focused on code and are focused on finding ways to do as much as possible with the tools that I know they didn't think 3 years ago that people are going to spend $10,000 on Mac Studios and download these almost trillion parameter kind of language models to run locally. And that's exactly what people, and this guy, like I said, he's buying Mac Studios like they're Tic Tacs. Because he's like, it's in the long run, it's cheaper to do that than to hire employees who take breaks, who get things wrong. And it's like, so there are people that are thinking so far ahead of even these AI folks that nobody knows where this is going or where it ends or what's where are the limits. They're going to be testing the limits all along. And companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, they're at everybody has them as the forefront of all this. They're going to be constantly tested on stuff.
Yeah.
And then somebody, and then we'll get this kind of behavior. We'll piss in our own pond. We'll, do bad things. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And we do know what's going to happen. There's always going to be approximately 1% of that population that is going to overexcel at something. But I think what we're doing wrong, and we do this every single time, is we try to convince everyone that they have to be like some kind of AI tech person. And you don't. You do need to be a super expert on your business and your industry. You need to be a super expert in the processes that you have and the workflows and how those work and the decision-making systems inside that business. And you do need to know enough. Anita Campbell always said this, and I just have always loved that piece of advice. You don't have to be the expert, but you have got to know. Because if you're going to be hiring people, you need to know enough, because people will swindle you. They're going to sell you something just because, and I know this happens in the marketing space. People are sold all kinds of things for huge amounts of money that don't cost that much money. They don't even have that much value. If you know. Yeah. So I think that's really good advice for everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
She retains the title. We'll see what happens, because almost every day something new happens. Like a month ago, how many people knew what I guess it was called Maltbot back then? I don't know. It's gone through like 3 iterations so far. But just think about how a couple years ago, conversations like this would have been strictly at the highest nerd level. Like, we're not the tech capitalist kind of folks, but look how much we've had to learn to try to maintain some layer of being able to keep up and run businesses. And this is just it's just really the start of this stuff too. We're still really early innings. How many people, how many small businesses do you think are even at this level?
Yeah. I'll say this real quickly. I think the level of specialized knowledge that I think you need, it's shifting. The goalposts are shifting. It does over time. Go back maybe even not just with AI, go back maybe 10 years ago. Let's say that you didn't understand you didn't understand how a website, you may have understood a little bit about what websites work, but you didn't understand apps. You didn't understand maybe something about databases. Fast forward to now, there's still bits and pieces of that knowledge now that I think it's a little easier to understand and be able to adopt. The idea that, phones are a good example too. The cameras on our phones. Go back again, 10 years ago, you would have had smartphones and cameras and smartphones, which made everybody a photographer, as Elena mentioned. Look at the regular phones. They have what was called bridge regular phones, regular cameras. They have what was called bridge cameras, which was the ones with the extended lenses, and you didn't have to take the lens out. So you could take these really fantastic pictures. Those are technically on the way out right now because so many people are the cameras and the smartphones are better. That's one part of it. The technology and some of the other standalone cameras has shifted and changed, which means your knowledge of that has to change with that. So I think I think as business owners, we have to keep our ears to the ground, not every day, but occasionally, to know how technology is shifting to where we need to know a little bit more to make ourselves more effective.
Man, how can we have another mic drop after the first mic drop? I mean, that's Leland, you want to give it a shot? I mean,
I don't want to follow up those two. No, I'll fall flat on my face.
All right. Well, we gone as usual a little over, but once again, it's really interesting conversations going on here. Thanks to anybody who was out there watching. Thanks for the bold one, the cold one, John Colrice Lawson, for letting us know he's still around. It's always a good thing. We like to know that he's still around. And we will be around next week. Is that like the last Friday in the month of February already?
Yeah, Fridays. February always moves fast. Always.
We're almost into March of 2026, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it is what it is, folks. So you be there, we'll be there. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next Friday. Thanks.